Welcome back to the show. Cowboys headed to Atlanta Sunday at 1 on Fox. Dak trying to get the W. And stop turning the ball over, Brew. 2 interceptions against the 49ers, 2 interceptions against the Lions, 2 interceptions against the Steelers, but they won that one. Here's Dak.
You're never going to knock my confidence. Some of the majority of it is decision. So, I go back and I guess a couple years ago and I risk versus reward. And that's something that, just watching the film this week is just heavy on my mind. And I think from that comes, being able to, as I've said, get out of the pocket, make other plays happen when you're weighing that risk. It's when I've got the ball in my hands, it's not just about that play. It's about the team, the game, the momentum of it, and just got to be better.
I like that quote, Brew. Also something I expect to hear from like a first-year player or like a second-year player like Bo Nix or somebody.
You mean the decision?
Like the risk versus reward. It just seemed odd. More likely for the Cowboys, A game or F game?
Well, as we know, an F game for the Cowboys is always
around the corner.
Always around the corner, right? But I'm going to surprise you guys. A game on deck.
Wow.
A game on deck. The Cowboys are absolutely desperate. And I know I've said that about the Jets, and they got it done last night, but other teams have been in this position. But the Cowboys, I think they get it done. I think they go to Atlanta. Look, they're common, but so are the Falcons. They're common. And Kirk Cousins has struggled historically against the Cowboys. His numbers are okay, but he's 2-9 against the Cowboys in his career. And here's the thing, too. The Cowboys' struggles, Nick, their embarrassing performances
are at home.
All at home. I don't know if that's pressure from Jerry. I don't know if it's too many fan tours. I don't know. But at home, they're a joke. And on the road, they're 3-1. And on the road, they scored 32 against a good Cleveland defense, especially week 1 when they think they're going to have a good season, Cleveland.
Wow.
So, then they beat Pittsburgh on the road. And last week, even though they deservedly got an F, because the third quarter was so bad, it was deservingly of an F. But the other 3 quarters, they were pretty good, right? On the road. So I say the Cowboys have an A game.
Not Mr. Consistent.
To bring their
that's fine.
Because there's nuance.
Yeah, and every game's its own thing.
I keep it real.
Wilds, you seem surprised.
Well,
they going to just lose every week?
No, but I think if a team can run the ball, you can run the ball on the Cowboys.
No, that's true.
And I wish I had more creative analysis, but unfortunately, sometimes I just have to be beholden to the truth. And the truth is, they have 13 turnovers. Only the Raiders, Titans, and Carolina have more. None of those teams are very good. They cannot stop the run, and they can't run the ball. So Bijan Robinson and
Algier
are just going to run the ball, and all of a sudden, Dak is going to be down. Dak's going to start throwing the ball. He's going to have to weigh risk versus reward, but the math is going to be kind of funky because, I have to do this because the risk is worth it because we're down, because we're nosebleed, and they just keep on running, and then it's an interception, and then they lose.
So I disagree. I disagree with you, Wilds. However, first let me say one thing I agree with you on. Around week 4 of the season, I got, as you would say, quite fresh with you about the Cowboys' run defense.
It
was so, yeah, but I feel like you give it back to me. Wild sometimes when I get
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
You are a fresh fella.
Yeah.
But it really weighs on your conscience.
I feel
because I don't even remember. He's like 2 years ago. Wild, I said something.
It weighs on my conscience. It doesn't weigh on my conscience
up about it
at all if I am proven correct. In fact, I just get angrier at the other person for not listening earlier. But first 2 weeks of the season, Cowboys' run defense was awful.
Yeah.
And then the next 2 weeks, they had excellent statistical performances. And I said, so how do we know they're bad if they've been great twice, bad twice? Turns out they're bad. So on that front, you are correct. However, even if they are common, I don't think they're going to lose 3 in a row. I don't think that Atlanta is a good enough team to where it's like, Cowboys, it's just an any given Sunday type of situation. And Dak, to his credit, has one of the longest, and that's with many different iterations of Cowboys teams, streaks without losing 3 in a row. Mahomes has literally never done it. So it's his whole career. Josh Allen, it's been 5 years. Dak's the next longest. It's been back, you know what I mean? It's been 5 years for Dak as well, but he missed a large portion of one of those seasons. Your guy, Jared Goff, Wilds, next man up on that list. Like, I don't think that all of a sudden the Cowboys are going to go from, okay, we're fine, to our season has totally fallen apart.
Right.
And a loss this week is your season has totally fallen apart. I know we're going to talk about them being a buyer at the deadline. A loss this week, they should be a seller at the deadline. And so I just don't think that's going to happen.
Just speaking to your graphic about Dak and historically, he doesn't lose. Historically, they don't lose at home either.
That's true.
Well, the last 2 years.
yeah.
they've been
And so
great.
that has changed. And the other thing that really changed, and Dak said this to John Machota, or it's just kind of like a press gaggle. They were joking around and say, hey, Dak, do you realize you have fewer rushing yards than Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco, and Aaron Rodgers? And he kind of laughed it off. I was like, that cannot. I honestly, it was a reporter asking it and Dak answering it. And I was like, certainly that cannot be true. It is true. He has rushed for, do you know this? Have you spied my paper?
Well, we know
I'm
he
less than
can't
50
do it with his legs
24 yards this year. So the reason I speak to that is how many times in tight games that even non-mobile quarterbacks, and Mahomes is the best, like, we need to pick this up. You don't need to run for 50 yards. You don't need to be Lamar.
Wilds,
but these little.
Put your antenna up. You know what struck my end? Put it up there. Chris Collinsworth, who I think is as good as anybody in the world at what he does, saying almost as an aside during their last game,
against San Francisco.
Dak doesn't run like he used to. I'm sorry, Dak doesn't move like he used to.
Move is worse than run.
I don't want to misquote him.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he said move or run, but I know it was, I can see the play happening. Dak was rolling out to his right, had an opportunity to run. Instead, he threw it, and it was no chance of being caught. It was out of bounds. And Collinsworth, who sees things on football games that he's like, snap after the play. He's like, oh, the left guard got annihilated there, and they have it. He said, oh, no, Dak just doesn't move like he used to. And that put my antenna up. I'm like, he is, because I knew he wasn't running a lot, but what Collinsworth is saying is he doesn't think he can.
And
like
that was a big part of his game. He wasn't Lamar Jackson.
No, but it was a
his
nice
mobility,
added wrinkle.
absolutely.
Aaron
was a big
Rodgers
part of
broke
his
a
game.
little run that's like it's a momentum builder.
That was the
and that was
scariest
another
run
one that
ever.
got called back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
something.
it did spark the team too. Like seeing him do that. Yeah.
We're not moving at all.
One other thing, because I guess we're not going to be able to get to it. Flip side is if they win, I do think they might add a piece. 2018, they started 3-4, and they swung big for the Amari Cooper trade. They then lost the first game with Amari, but then won 7 of 8, won a playoff game that year against Seattle. You look at this weekend, the Jags lose, they're going to be sellers. The Dolphins lose this week. Do they consider trading Jalen Ramsey? Do they say this isn't our year?
That's interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of
Baltimore
move.
should be-
Well, yeah.
You're talking about antenna.
Of course.
This
But
antenna thing's really
I'm
taken
saying,
off.
like, if the Cowboys win, there will be some opportunity to add some defensive players or maybe a running back. And I think
That's what
Also,
they should
this
be.
Trayvon news that Jerry kind of just floated out.
Well, yeah, Trayvon has, like, he called it a slight tear in his calf, but he's also
You get injury reports.
from Jerry on the radio.
Strange. Before we go, make sure you play this week's Fox Super 6, sponsored by DraftKings. You go to the Fox Sports app and enter for a free chance to win cash prizes. Today's question, most passing yards, Nick. What do you think?
Of these options, which is Love against the Lions, there it is, Goff against the Packers, Dak against the Falcons, and Wild's got Joe Burrow against the Raiders.
Yeah.
Who do you think I'm taking, KW?
You should take Jared Goff.
Well, wrong. Joe Burrow is going to light up the Raiders. The Bengals are going to win by a lot of points.
Tune into Upset Alert if you want to see how Joe Burrow has been doing the last few weeks. Is Bruce sticking with the Ravens?
He shouldn't.
Yes.
This is
Brew,
Lamar's
you can
back.
abandon him.
This is
Yes.
video of Lamar being. You get injury reports
From Jerry on the radio.
Strange. Before we go, make sure you play this week's Fox Super 6, sponsored by DraftKings. You go to the Fox Sports app and enter for a free chance to win cash prizes. Today's question, most passing yards, Nick. What do you think?
Of these options, which is Love against the Lions, there it is, Goff against the Packers, Dak against the Falcons, and Wild's got Joe Burrow against the Raiders.
Yeah.
Who do you think I'm taking, KW?
You should take Jared Goff.
Well, wrong. Joe Burrow is going to light up the Raiders. The Bengals are going to win by a lot of points.
Tune into Upset Alert if you want to see how Joe Burrow has been doing the last few weeks. Is Bruce sticking with the Ravens?
He shouldn't.
Yes.
This is
Bruce,
Lamar's
you can
back.
abandon him.
This is
Yes.
video of Lamar being
You
back.
don't even have to add.
Wow.
Yes.
No longer